2, 1, and keep in mind there's about a 20-second delay, so it says it's telling me preparing to live stream the meeting right now.
Just put your finger or a thumbs up so I'll know to start.
So it says it's telling me preparing to live stream the meeting right now.
Just put your finger or a thumbs up so I'll know to start.
Okay. So it says it's.
I'm getting that feedback, Dr. Burchett.
I think he's muted. Is he muted?
I think, but I was hearing the YouTube back feed. Did you all hear that?
I did.
I'm not hearing Dr. Burchett at all.
I think he's muted right now. It shows he's muted.
Is it time for me?
It's 5, 6, I mean.
Okay. I'm like Mary Jane, I'm getting stressed now.
Yeah, okay.
It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna work out. Everything's gonna be all right.
Our new normal.
That's right. He's muted.
Yes, I'm going to text him.
Okay, so I had to go in and mute the YouTube feed because what happens is it was playing back and then re-recording itself. And so now I believe we're ready to go. The YouTube feed is up and running.
Okay.
Should not get a feedback from it. So I believe you are ready to call the meeting to order.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call to order the Harrison County Board of Education. This is considered a special board meeting because we're meeting via video teleconference amid the COVID-19 crisis. We'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. And before we start, I just would like to send out a special shout out to all of the people in the community that have rallied around and done such an amazing job leading our community amid the crisis. The county judge, Alex Barnett, the mayor, Mr. Smith, and Sheila Kearns, the CEO of Harrison Memorial Hospital, and of course, Dr. Burchett, and also Dr. Miller at Wedco Health Department. I have been so proud of our community, and just to see the leadership respond so quickly to protect the citizens of Harrison County has just been unbelievable. And I think we all would agree, we're very lucky to live in a community that has so much collaboration among the leaders that they would act so quickly to protect all of us. So we'll get started with the meeting. Bear with us this evening. This is the first time we've done a Zoom meeting as a school board. We'll be doing these from now on until the COVID restrictions are lifted. It is available on YouTube, so you can watch there. And again, we just appreciate your patience during our meeting. So if we have some technical difficulties, bear with us, we'll do our best. But thank you again for joining us. I'd like to call to order the meeting, and I'm going to do roll call since we're on video. Mrs. Brunker.
This is Mary Jane Brunker.
Thank
Here.
you. Mr. Dearborn.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ms. Hatterick.
Here.
Thank you. And Mr. Taylor.
Here.
And also this evening, obviously, we have Dr. Burchett and Richard Harris, our technical support. And I believe that is it for right now. So we're going to get started with Dr. Burchett leading us in the pledge.
And also Miss Dana Waits with us.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dana.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm looking right at my sincerest apologies. See, I told
It's all
you this
good.
technical stuff. I'm
All
so
good.
sorry.
No worries.
Join me with the pledge. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of the
of
United
the United States of America,
and to the republic
public,
for which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burchett. The next item on our agenda this evening is the consideration to adopt the resolution regarding meeting protocol during novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Burchett is going to read in full the resolution. It's quite lengthy, so he is going to read it and then we can discuss it. Thank you so much, Dr. Burchett.
A resolution of the Harrison County Board of Education regarding meeting protocols for novel coronavirus COVID-19. Whereas on March 6, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order 2020-215 declaring a state of emergency throughout Kentucky pursuant to his power under the Kentucky Constitution and KRS Chapter 39A regarding the threats to public health presented by the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the Secretary of the Kentucky Finance and Administration Cabinet has more fully described the public health threats of COVID-19 in the memorandum regarding meetings protocols for novel coronavirus COVID-19 dated March 16, 2020, hereinafter the meeting protocol. And whereas the meeting protocol requires all Kentucky boards and commissions to take proper health precautions to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, and accordingly, with respect to the public attendance at meetings of said bodies, states members of the public will only be able to attend and view video teleconference meetings remotely. And whereas the same emergency public health considerations as described in the meeting protocol apply to Kentucky public school districts and their boards of education. And whereas the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services and the Kentucky Department of Education have each advised that all Kentuckians practice social distancing during the state of emergency, including but not limited to keeping a distance of at least 6 feet between individuals and cancellation of large community gatherings. And whereas the Kentucky Open Meetings Act at KRS 61.840 provides that no condition other than those required for the maintenance of order shall apply to the attendance of any member of the public at any meeting of a public agency. And whereas due to the emergency conditions currently existing under the present state of emergency and the need to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 via person-to-person contact in large community gatherings of persons where social distancing is difficult, the conditions necessary at this time for the maintenance of the order, which include the mitigation of the spread of disease during a public health pandemic at meetings of district boards of education, include limitations on meeting attendance by members of the public, such as described in the meeting protocol. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Harrison County Board of Education on a motion of, need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Make a motion.
I think Mr. Taylor made the motion. Mr. Dearborn
Gary
seconded.
Dearborn seconds it.
The board hereby resolves and orders as follows for the duration of the above declared state of emergency with regard to Board of Education meetings held on and after the adoption of this resolution and subject to limited exceptions described below. The board shall have the option to conduct its meetings in conformity with the procedures set forth in KRS 61.826 for video teleconference of meetings. Boards shall use their best efforts to attend any board meeting in person and shall observe any binding governmental directive or order that may be issued in the future to prohibit such attendance. The superintendent shall arrange for resources and instructions necessary to allow board meetings to be conducted via video teleconferencing pursuant to KRS 61.826 and board policy. Due to the circumstances previously described in this resolution, in the governor's declaration of a state of emergency, and in the meeting protocol, and based upon the authority to impose conditions to maintain order under KRS 61.840 in these extraordinary and emergency circumstances, the requirement in KRS 61.826 subsection 2, subsection B, that the board provide a primary location where the public may attend is suspended to the extent that that provision requires an in-person meeting location. Notices that regular or special meetings of the board are to be held as video teleconferences shall provide directions on public viewing of meetings via the internet. The school district will provide members of the general public with notice and a video link to observe the meetings. Provision of such link shall not otherwise interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Absent emergency circumstances qualifying under KRS 61.823 subsection 5, these notices shall be provided at least 24 hours before the video teleconference meeting. Should there be an interruption in the public video or audio broadcast of the meeting shall be suspended until the full functionality is restored. If there is such an interruption for an individual board member attending the meeting via video teleconference, the meeting may continue after reasonable efforts to restore connections, so long as quorum is still participating. In the case of any board meetings involving individual hearing matters, including but not limited to student expulsion hearings, consideration shall be made on a case-by-case basis for the holding of in-person meetings as deemed necessary and advisable, and alternative arrangements to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 via person-to-person contact may be implemented.
Thank you, Dr. Burchett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes.
Ms. Brunker,
This is Miss Brunker. Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion of resolution.
Thank you so,
passed.
thank you, Ms. Waits, and thank you, Dr. Burchett. Next item on the agenda is Dr. Burchett, information only. It's innovative outreach from the district during COVID-19 crisis. Dr. Burchett.
Give me just one moment. I'm going to share a screen.
Great.
view. And I've got just a little slideshow to play just briefly. So now that I'm back there, we hope those pictures just captured a little bit of the activity going on. Obviously, we couldn't gather everything, but I did want to point out a couple of quick things. And to do so, I do have to turn screen share back on just 1 second. On our homepage, under the left-hand side, there is a thing that says quick links, NTI, and COVID. Well, first off, on the main page is a picture of our Harrison County Meal Service. Also, if you see this little exclamation point on the bottom right, if you click that, it brings up the important messages that are current. And this current one has the announcement for tonight's special meeting and the YouTube link. So anybody in the public can actually click on that link and get directly to it. But on the left-hand side, NTI and COVID-19 information. If you go here, you'll see everything that's related to what we're doing with NTI and COVID-19, including a one-page, or actually a two-page document that tells all the services that are being provided and who to contact and how to get in touch with folks. So we did that early on. Also, NTI information for the district, including the high school, middle school, elementary schools, links to their NTI packets, and so forth. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the public, our students, parents, and the community to access that information. Now, just to talk about a few of the things, one of the concepts of Commissioner Brown, Education Commissioner Brown, is to make sure we continue to educate, feed, and serve. And of course, you know, we set our priorities back on March the 7th before anyone else in the state, because we had the first case of coronavirus in Kentucky. And we had a priority to continue to provide instruction and to make sure we provided meals for our students. And we jumped right in early on to do that. And I'll just say that we have the best team in Harrison County. All 450 plus employees have stepped up and really carried a load that none of us really could have ever anticipated or predicted or been prepared for. But it's been amazing, the outpouring of support, not just by the employees, but also many volunteers in the community as well. Just to talk briefly about some of the activities that have went on. The staff has stepped up, our teachers stepped up in amazing ways to support our students physically, emotionally, socially, and academically. They're reaching out through multiple connectivity pieces, phone calls, Facebook. They too are using Zoom with students who have access to Zoom. So there's many different ways. They're using low tech, high tech, Dojo, and various other technologies. We've had a lot of education, a lot of support from local vendors, providing free resources to educators to help continue education during this time. And we also want to shout out to Dr. Kern's office sent cinnamon rolls to the staff from the Burley Market. So they sent some stuff to the teachers and also supported local businesses, which is great. Staff are continuing to make deliveries of food, snacks, and NTI work, making personal calls to students and families, making personal visits to the homes. Of course, maintaining safe social distancing when we're doing those things. We have staff that are sharing books, doing teaching lessons virtually, teaching how to make creative things for art and other activities using household items. We have secretaries and nurses calling families and checking on them. We have transportation and of course, our meal service, food service employees, as you saw from the slides, working to make sure that we're getting those meals out. And we've been serving an enormous amount of meals per day, up in the 1,800, close to 2,000 meals per day. And that's just for lunch. And then we have a supper menu as well. We also added breakfast, which is a prepackaged product that goes to the next day. The teamwork between our teachers and the district's been inspiring. They have the way they've tackled the tasks of working together to develop and have peer-reviewed materials and lessons for our students. Eastside has been performing shout outs that have been instrumental in maintaining positivity in the building and in the community. Eastside students have also participated in some of this stuff. Eastside staff created an Eastside Reads Facebook page where they actually go online and record themselves reading books so that students can actually hear their teachers read stories to them directly. And Ms. Hoskins was the person who stepped up and helped create that page. From another school, they say teachers and staff love the families and the students that they serve. They're concerned about them academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. They were very happy to know when the decision was made to create packets for NTI days 11 through 20. And the teachers learned from each other in how to use technology to best serve our students. From the high school, they have a lot of parents utilizing their online videos and tutorials through Google. They don't just do the packet alone. If they have access, then they are using the online tutorials. Special thanks to Ms. Garnett for uploading videos for teachers and students and caretakers for all ages. And the technology we are trying to use is being utilized at a breakneck pace. The high school misses all the kids, and they want everybody to know that they're there and accessible for them by phone at any time during the day. So reach out to them. And all of our schools have expressed that same notion. One of the people delivering the meals said that they pulled up to a home one day, and one gentleman actually it put him to tears when they pulled up and handed out the meals to all the students. So the community certainly recognizes the enormous efforts that are being done to continue to provide services for our students and the community. Michelle Rossi, one of our school psychologists, as you know, we have a emotional support hotline that we've created, and that includes our school psychologists, school counselors, school social workers. It's about nine individuals or 10, and it was on that slideshow. There was a picture of them. She said she wanted to share a small success that they've had during the NTI days. Across the district, we've continued to chair and host our ARC meetings via phone conference and video call. So while they're not physically there present at school, they are able to meet student needs. They had a parent request a Zoom meeting, and the staff invited to the meeting acquired Zoom last week and participated in the call without any challenges. We got to see the student we were speaking to multiple times in the video, and the parents were thrilled that we could continue to meet their needs even though we weren't able to see them at school. The parents had time to discuss their child's special circumstances in completing the NTI packets, and the team was able to get them extra services to help them meet their needs. It was nice to be able to share and provide these parents and other parents some stability and peace of mind in this unprecedented time. She says, we're all in this together. Thank everyone for what we do. On Monday, March 30th, elementary principals, school teachers, and staff members conducted parades of caravans on the home routes of their students. Northside did it last week. This was advertised in advance so students and their families could be standing outside while the caravan passed their house. Brightly decorated cars with teachers waving at their students as they drove by sent an extremely positive message to children and their families. They were able to connect by seeing a familiar smiling face in a social distance context. Everyone stayed in their cars. Likewise, students made posters for their schools and teachers to hold up when the caravans drove by. It was a moment of connection that was extremely well received by students, family, and the community. They go on to say the books that have been read to students and their families through online platforms are tremendous. Students and their families are even sharing their own read alouds on Facebook and other online social media. It has become a wonderful platform for principals, teachers, and all district staff members to use during this time of containment. Facebook Live videos allow teachers to share lessons with students, fun instructional related activities geared for participation, not just by the students, but by the entire family. And continuation of messages from their principals meant to encourage students in their daily routines, even though they are home. Other electronic platforms are being utilized by older students to help stay connected as well. I think you saw in the slideshow a couple of our principals creating videos to send home to their students. It's just amazing what has occurred, the hard work that has went on, and we've been able to do that even though we have met the governor's directives for social distancing. So we are certainly limiting that. I do want to announce that today, effective today, we began a new partnership with the Cynthiana Democrat, and we are going to, with them, help sponsor a evening read aloud book for the community, for our students. And I will be joining Ms. Barnes tomorrow to read a book, and it will go out on Cynthiana Democrat's live Facebook page. So if you're watching this tonight, please tune in to the Democrat tomorrow and send Becky Barnes and Trish Jenkins and that staff a big special thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I just
This
can't.
is Ruth Hack.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that I very much enjoyed West Side's parade yesterday afternoon. It was a very spirited event and
I did
just kind of
see
made the whole.
the teacher parade.
Beg your pardon? I didn't hear the question.
Mr. Taylor, did you ask Mrs. Hatterick a question?
Oh, no, I was just saying I did see the teacher parade to my granddaughter's house, and it was very well received. I'm getting a notice of my internet unstable, so.
Yeah, we can tell your voice is a little shaky there, so,
Just do the best you can.
okay. Ms. Hatterick, you want to say anything else?
No, I'm good. I just thank them for doing that. Everyone's been so marvelous. I'm just so proud of everybody in our district. Thank you so much.
I will have to admit, when I saw the parade yesterday, I just sat in my car and cried because it's just, it just shows how the teachers care so much. And I think the teachers miss the students as much as the students miss the teachers. And it just shows the amount of effort they're willing to go to connect with the students and the families. And it was just really special. I can't thank everybody enough. Okay, thank you, Dr. Burchett, so much. Next item on the agenda is approval of actions taken by the superintendent and school administrators to meet the needs of students during the Kentucky National State of Emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Burchett is going to review all of these actions. And I want to clarify, Dr. Burchett has been in touch with us each individually to discuss each of these actions before they took place. He has kept us very well informed during the crisis, but these are action items that we need to take. So, Dr. Burchett.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. The rationale reads, on March 7th, local health officials called an emergency meeting of Cynthiana Harrison County community leaders, in which I was included. This meeting was held to inform community officials that a Harrison County resident had tested positive for coronavirus COVID-19 on March 6th, making this the first confirmed case in Kentucky. Immediately, I notified the board members and also called an impromptu meeting of administrators the afternoon of March 7th to formulate a plan for Harrison County schools. The main focus of the school district would be to continue to provide the safety and well-being of students, staff, and the community. It was decided at this initial meeting on March 7th that in an effort to give public health officials time to conduct contact investigations while limiting exposure and reducing possible transmission for our community, the Harrison County School District would close regular classes and utilize our non-traditional instruction program for the week of March 9th through the 13th. And I want to be clear to the public about this. This decision has been praised statewide to close the schools early when we did. I'm sure some people may have thought otherwise early on, but looking back in retrospect, they now realize that it was the right move and a very clear and concise, direct move for the safety and well-being of the community and our students and our staff. Those decisions could not be made properly without a great community partnership, which is in place here in Cynthiana and Harrison County. And we must take time to praise Judge Alex Barnett, Mayor James Smith, Sheila Kearns of HMH, Dr. Crystal Miller of WEDCO, and the many other partners, fire and EMS and police and sheriff and so forth that were present that morning, because the meeting that we had on the Saturday, March 7th, provided the information necessary to make an informed and effective decision that was the best for this community. Two imperatives for students during the school closure were decided on March 7th. One was that Harrison County Schools would provide continuity of instruction through non-traditional instruction. And two, that Harrison County Schools would provide continuity of nutrition by continuing to provide meal services to students. As the coronavirus worsened and the WHO, World Health Organization, declared a global pandemic, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear urged school districts to close. Harrison County Schools made the decision to close the remainder of March through April 3rd. At that point in time, we are now closed all the way through April the 17th. Working with school psychologists and counselors as things progressed, it was also decided to add a third imperative to the original list generated on March 7th, and that was to provide mental health services to our students, families, and staff faced with anxiety, stress, and other issues during this public health crisis. This has been concept and idea that originated here by our staff, by our team, our school mental health and wellness team, who came to me and said, we need to do this for our students, has been modeled statewide. A mental health support hotline was made available on Harrison County Schools website, and that phone number is manned live during the day and has a recording that is checked regularly throughout the evening and overnight. In addition to the lunches being provided to our students, later a decision was made to also provide a dinner meal to children 18 and under, which also includes any age student of Harrison County. Also, we have since added a breakfast. The recommendation before the board tonight is consideration to grant approval of the following decisions and actions taken beginning March 7th, 2020 and continuing by the superintendent and school administrators to meet the needs of students during the Kentucky National State of Emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that they are in no particular order. Closing schools through April 17th, with spring break still being observed April 6th through the 10th of 2020. Providing school lunches, dinner, and breakfast to any age students of Harrison County and all children 18 and under via drive-through pickup lines at Northside Elementary and Harrison County High School from noon to 1 each day, and breakfast and lunch delivery to students that request it via our transportation department. Bus drivers, monitors, and school personnel deliver lunches to homes that call in and sign up. Meal counts are obtained by a shared Google Doc among schools. Most recently, a central dispatch number has been added, which is manned and has added to the streamline and meal counts due to higher volume. Number 3, providing a dinner meal prepared at HCMS via pickup at several locations throughout the county and at HCMS curbside pickup. Instruction given and provided by NTI packets online or by packet for days 1 through 20. And we have now put out days 21 through 25, and we are working on days 26 through 35. This is accomplished by the packets being made available electronically on the district website, available for pickup in the lobbies of the schools or delivered to homes by transportation department volunteers. Also, you can hand up a completed packet back to those folks who are out in the county as well. Instruction given by providing NTI packets for days 1 through 20 and beyond. This is accomplished by the packets being made available electronically on the district website and also handed out and delivered to homes by transportation department and volunteers. We have completed enhanced cleaning and disinfecting measures, and that is ongoing in all district school buildings by custodial maintenance staff and all Harrison County Schools personnel. We had to cancel all extracurricular student trips, competitions, events, and activities until further notice. I will go on to say that the KHSAA has implemented a dead period during this time and are not allowing any activities as well until we get beyond this global pandemic. We had to take the action of allowing district employees to work remotely from home, those who can, especially those that fall in at-risk categories. And that at-risk communication has been communicated to all employees. In complying with state and federal social distancing mandates, this includes teacher support from home for NTI packets. We implemented a mental health and wellness support hotline on the district website. This was done by repurposing the district's bullying hotline, and the stop tip line to report bullying is still available on the website. Temporarily reassigning employees to work as needed in areas that are not their normal duty stations in order to accomplish the district's imperatives during the COVID-19 crisis, and encouraging administrators, principals, and teachers and all staff to reach out to students, parents, and the community through social media to promote direction, support, encouragement, and positivity messages for students, as well as to provide applicable information. Exercising necessary communications to respective organizations to request full refunds of all money paid in advance regarding any trips, be they senior trip, softball trips, baseball trips, or any other trips that had obligated school funds. That completes.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I
From the-
do.
Sure.
Will we be feeding students during spring break?
That is a great question, Mr. Dearborn. Mr. Dacey does plan to provide a modified feeding schedule that is not out yet. It will be coming out very soon this week, but it will look something like this, and it will probably be full service on Monday and Tuesday, and prepackaged products for days of Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. Part of the complexities of this pandemic is our normal supply chains, and school districts all across, not just Kentucky, but all across the nation are struggling to get the products in that we need to be able to continue to serve meals throughout the district and the community. So, you know, that is a daily challenge, and that the providers, even though, you know, we would have a normal bid, our first person who'd be on our bid, they may not be able to provide it. So we may have to drop to the second bid or the third bid, or go off some other state government bid. We have a lot of flexibility with that, but the challenge has been just having access to providers. So yes, to answer your question, we will be providing meals to our students during spring break week. No NTI work. We don't want students to do NTI work. We want them to take a break, enjoy that time with their families.
And I'm sure their parents will greatly appreciate it. That's for sure. A comment about the meals during spring break. That was a great question, Mr. Dearborn. I've noticed on the news that a lot of districts are not providing meals during spring break. So I'm very excited and thankful that our staff are willing to give up part of their break to prepare the meals and get them out. And I know that the families will greatly appreciate the meals. I've heard so many positive comments about the meals and how it has been just a blessing to their families to be able to have that food. So again, there aren't enough positive things to say about our food service with Mr. Dacey and Miss Cindy Harden and all the other the staff. It's just been amazing how they have rallied and were just called to arms immediately and came up with a solution. But that was Dr. Burchett's leadership from the get-go and planning. Immediately when school was canceled, first thought was we have to feed the children. So that was certainly his leadership, but thank you to everybody. Do I hear a motion to approve these actions taken?
Bruce Hatterick, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Ruth Hatterick and second by Mr. Gary Dearborn.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
thank you so much. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of consent items, include board minutes. You all have had all of this information, and thank you to Ms. Waits and Dr. Burchett for getting our agendas prepared early, and Dr. Burchett hand delivered these last week to us on Friday afternoon, so we would have a hard copy of our agendas and our information. So do I hear a motion for approval?
Ed Taylor, move to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor,
Mary June Bronker, second.
Hatterick.
second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is approval of financial reports. It's March 2020 financial report, which includes board, school activity, and booster accounts, and the paid warrant report. Any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion for approval?
I, Gary Dearborn, make the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Ruth Hatterick, second.
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Dearborn and second by Ms. Hatterick.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion
thank
passed.
you. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval of emergency certification for Lakin Brooks, special education teacher, working a split position at South Side and East Side. Dr. Burchett, do you have any comments you'd like to share with us on that?
There's nothing new about that. That's a position that we added in a previous board meeting as a result of a direct student need.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Ed Taylor,
Gary
so
Dearborn.
moved.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor and second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you, Ms. Waits. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval for Northside Elementary School to apply for the following grants. Kentucky Reading Association Classroom Library Grant. Sharon Bridges is applying in the amount of $500 to purchase books for the classroom library. James Phillips Memorial Literacy Grant. Sharon Bridges is also applying for this grant in the amount of $1,000 to purchase materials and resources for Family Literacy Night. Third grant, Kentucky Reading Association Combating Summer Slide Grant. Sharon Bridges is applying in the amount of $1,000 for reading materials and resources to help struggling readers. Any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion for approval?
Mary June Brunker, motion to approve.
Ruth Hatterick, second.
Motion made by Mrs. Brunker and second by Mrs. Hatterick.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval for Southside Elementary School to apply for the following grants. Kentucky Reading Association Classroom Literacy Grant. Brooke Moore is applying in the amount of $500 to purchase books for the classroom library. James Phillips Memorial Literacy Grant. Brooke Moore applying for that in the amount of $1,000 for Family Literacy Engagement Event. Kentucky Reading Association Combating Summer Slide Grant. Brooke Moore applying in the amount of $1,000 for Summer Literacy Project. Do I hear a motion? Grant approval?
Gary Dearborn makes the motion.
Ed Taylor, second.
Hatterick, second.
Motion made by Mr. Gary Dearborn, second by Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion
Next.
passed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval for Harrison County High School to apply for the following grant. R.C. Durer Foundation Grant, Kyra Garrison applying in the amount of $23,000 for a new digital two-sided marquee in the amount of $15,000 and classroom technology assistance to students in rural areas, $8,000. Dr. Burchett, would you please speak to that, please?
Yes, this is really at no cost to the board other than the installation of that signboard, should we get that grant. And I think they have been in touch with Mr. Schweitzer and Mr. Harris as far as the hookup and connectivity of it. And both have agreed to take that piece on out of their current existing budget. So I would recommend that you approve this, this grant, applying for this grant. It would be a wonderful communication tool for our community.
Yes, it would.
Certainly would. Any questions or comments? Do I hear a
Mary
motion to
Jane
grant
Bronner.
approval?
Mary June Bronker, so moved.
Ruth Hatterick, second.
Motion made by Mrs. Brunker and second by Ms. Hatterick.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval to apply for the following food service grants. National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grant. Mr. Dacey's applying in the amounts of $17,000 for a combination oven for Northside Elementary. National School Lunch Program Equipment Assistance Grant. Also, Mr. Dacey applying in the amounts of $20,000 for a double stack combination oven for Harrison County High School. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Burchett, would you like to say something?
Well, I'm just going to say, you know, on all these grants here, that's 4, I believe we've done, you know, it's amazing how our staff gets out and goes after these grants. And we've talked about this in the past. We looked that information up. Ms. Asher gave us that amount, how much we'd received. And I don't recall off the top of my head, but I think it was up there close to about $500,000 over a 2-year period. And you know, the staff gets out and works for these, and we couldn't provide the services we provide without getting some of these extra grants to help support what we do with instruction and continuity of services. So thank you for approving these.
Absolutely. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Ruth Hatterick, so moved.
Motion made by Ms. Hatterick and
Gary
second
Dearborn.
by Mr. Dearborn. My apologies that I interrupted you. It's just really hard. Motion made by Ms. Hatterick and second by Mr. Dearborn.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
next item, oh, I'm sorry. Next item on the agenda is information, 21st Century Community Learning Center grants received for programs at East Side and South Side. Dr. Burchett, want to share the good news? It's
Yes,
very exciting.
we are so excited to share with the community that both East Side Elementary and South Side Elementary were the recipients of the 21st Century Community Learning Center grants. Those of you who are familiar with the programs at North and West, we know that those programs provide after-school extension of services to our students, and also summer activity programs. I had the opportunity to actually plant a pumpkin patch at Northside just right after being hired on last summer. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful to be able to have this opportunity for all of our elementary students in Harrison County now that we've got it at all 4 elementary schools. And we're just so thankful for the efforts that went into this. These are very demanding, very highly competitive grants, and can't brag enough on Mr. Hart and Ms. Miles and their teams that went out and pursued these. Also, Ashley Farmer, I believe, was very instrumental in helping write some of that, and certainly many people contributed. I couldn't speak or address everyone who did so, but we're so proud of that. You have the information in your bulletins there. The most important thing, another important thing I want to mention about it, there was 46 of these grants awarded but only 10 new ones. So we got 2 of 10 new grants across the whole state of Kentucky. So Cynthiana and Harrison County, you should be very proud of the hard work going on in your schools as a result of that effort. I do want to go on to talk about a couple of things, and that is that they had co-applicants, and we couldn't do these grants without our co-applicants. And Eastside's co-applicant is 3M Company of Cynthiana, and we want to thank 3M and their efforts and their leadership down there. And also Southside's co-applicant is the Harrison County Farm Bureau. So thank you to the co-applicants. Thank you to the schools and everyone who was involved in helping to write the 21st Century Community Learning Center grants for Southside and Eastside.
Thank you so much. I just think it says volumes about our elementary schools that all 4 elementary schools have received this grant. And like Dr. Burchett said, 46 people applied and 10, we got 2 of them. It's just amazing, and the amount of hard work that goes in. And like he mentioned, we have received so many grants from the hard work of our staff going out and not just applying for grants that are land in their lap, they're searching for grants to provide more services to our students. And it's just so much appreciated. Anybody want to say anything? Any comments about the grants?
If I
Bruce
could,
Hattery, I would just,
go ahead, Bruce.
I was just going to say, kudos to everybody. I mean, what a remarkable 2 out of 10. Wow. That's so great. Tremendous. And just when we think about all the students that are going to be served during, after school and during the summer by those grants, just phenomenal. Thank you so much for all those involved.
Mr. Dearborn?
I would just like to say, if possible, maybe Dr. Burchett, you could send to our co-applicants a letter of appreciation from the board. And I mean, it's truly taking a village right now, and what they've done, 3M and Farm Bureau through the years. I just think if we can send a letter of appreciation on the part of the board, it would mean a lot.
Yes, sir. We will make sure that gets done, won't we, Ms. Waits?
We will.
My guess it's already been done, but I'm sure it has. But that's a great idea, Mr. Dearborn. Next item on the agenda, if there's any lemonade to be made out of these lemons, this would be the only thing that I can think of. Dr. Burchett's going to give us an update on the construction and renovation project. This is the only thing that I've been able to come up with in my little feeble mind that is positive, that we've been able to start the construction, and hopefully you all will be excited to see these updates. And you all received today from Mr. Noah. I always get his name backwards. It's Mr. Isn't it Scott or Mr. Noel? Scott Noel. I always do it backwards. I apologize. Anyway, he sent us a nice letter just summarizing the project so far, but we'll let Dr. Burchett speak to that and go into a little further detail.
Sure. So, of course, Mr. Schweitzer would typically be providing the construction updates, but in an effort to make sure we got this first Zoom meeting correct, we kind of limited who all we had on here, but we'll probably include them in the future because we are able to do this pretty effectively, I believe. The opportunity that presented itself was that, hey, we're going to be out of school for a while. Once the governor and the commissioner of education decided that we would be out of school for a few weeks, we got in touch with the contractors and had discussions about going ahead and starting the renovation projects a little early. And so as a result, we do have a report to provide, and you should have a copy of that report, but I'll summarize it. So we have started central office renovation, and you saw in the slideshow at the first of the night in the information, there was 2 or 3 pictures of showing some hard brown paper down in the hallway, and the ceilings were out, and you could see the surface of the roof where it was detached and falling away, and some problems up there in the roof of the central office. So they have been in here doing some demolition throughout the central office on the ceiling grid, and they've got the lights temporarily suspended and some of the wiring and things. They've mobilized, the HVAC contractor is mobilized and storing their tools and equipment in the maintenance part of the building. Demolition has taken place in the ceiling in the corridors and public access areas. Existing lights and network cabling have been temporarily secured in place. Installation of HVAC water piping currently being installed above the parking spaces within the corridors. Mr. Noel met with the job site superintendent. He plans to be on site every day for all other trades to begin work on April the 6th. So Summit Engineering is reviewing the product material submittals as they are submitted by the contractor each time. At Southside Elementary, they went ahead and started the asbestos abatement, and that is currently removing the floor tile within the classrooms. Last week, they were doing the gymnasium, the locker rooms, and the cafeteria had all had the hazardous material, asbestos had already been removed.
Great.
Mr. Schweitzer alluded that the work, he's going to be working with Mr. Harp on scheduling the rest of the space at Southside so that one, you got to make sure when you start the asbestos removal, you got to do air quality monitoring to make sure it's safe to be in the space. And so it's a good time to do that without students there, but teachers still have the need to get in there from time to time. So he is working with air quality monitoring to make sure they have access to be able to get in and get some of their stuff and get back out. And then our custodians and maintenance crew, along with some transportation workers who are currently working with the maintenance crew, will be moving some of their supplies and materials out of rooms while work is being conducted and then moved back in. All of that will be done with the approval of Analytical Management, who is the person, the company that monitors the air for safe travel. They are beginning to start to assemble color boards for staff to review as far as for floor tile and patterns and casework colors. And as soon as we get some of that information, we will be providing that to the board as well. So that's everything for this report. And I certainly anticipate much more. And hopefully Mr. Noel can join us live at our next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Dr. Burchett. I am so sorry. You've had a lot of presentations tonight, but next item on the agenda is the 6-month attendance report. And it's up to you how much you want to.
Well, I think we talked about that. Everybody has that in their files.
Yes.
And we go over the attendance each month. So please just review that on your own. There's no action required. It's just an information.
Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to grant approval of asbestos abatement services for central office. So Dr. Burchett, you want to review that?
Certainly will. There is a piece, a certain area of the central office that has some asbestos back there around the boiler area. And we had to do asbestos abatement on that project as well. No sealed bids were received for the project. However, a quote was received. The bid quote was considered non-conforming as it was not sealed and it was sent via email. We checked with Kentucky Department of Education, District of Facilities Branch, and we were given approval to, under the scope of work, to accept that quote and as a proper form quote for the purpose of removal and disposal of the asbestos containing jacket insulation from both boilers, including the associated steam piping insulation and rope gaskets. And you have that, that was not part of the original scope of the work for the board office renovation, but it was determined that we should go ahead and remove those old boilers and get that stuff out while this project was going on. And so what we're asking for is consideration to grant approval of asbestos abatement by Environmental Demolition Group in the at Harrison County Board of Education in the amount listed on your thing of $21,425.
Any questions or comments? If there's no further questions or comments, do I hear a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Taylor and second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is consideration to grant approval for the removal of the boiler services for the Harrison County Board of Education Central Office. 2 quotes were received. Harrison Machine Shop, $18,300, and Cherokee Rickers and Erectors, $19,250.
And again, that goes right along with once that asbestos is removed, to go ahead and remove those boilers. And also as a part of this project, if you recall, that big smokestack that's outside will be coming down as well as part of the central office renovation. Of course, you also know that the dog houses or air handling boxes on top of the buildings, those come off as well. Now, that's not a part of this particular approval item, but Harrison Machine Shop gave us a good price on that at 18.3. And I know Miss Brunker told me before the meeting that she would be abstaining from this vote if the board decided to approve this item.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion for approval?
Gary Dearborn makes a motion to approve.
Okay, I think Ms. Hatterick started first, so motion made by Ms. Hatterick and second by Mr. Dearborn.
Okay. And Mr.
I'm
Dearborn,
mad now.
Mr.
Just say
Dearborn,
if you inside or out.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker, you abstain, correct?
Yes, I do. I abstain.
Okay. Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval of painting services for Harrison County Schools. 1 bid was received and opened on March the 24th. Black and White Construction, $22 per hour. Dr. Burchett, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, the painting services will be used as needed by Mr. Schweitzer through his maintenance program.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Mary
Gary
Jane
Dearborn
Barker.
makes the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dearborn and second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes,
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is very pertinent to the world we're living in today, certainly. It's consideration to grant approval for the 2020 and 2021 non-traditional instruction program application. And Dr. Birch is going to speak to that, and also include in that the number of schools that didn't have NTI days approved when this whole situation started.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it was somewhere around about 80 school districts that had it and the others didn't. There's 172
Yeah.
or 3. It changes every day, but the NTI program is a very valuable program, as you well know. It was certainly the model that we had, or that anybody in Kentucky had, was never intended for this type of long-term outage. We were very fortunate this year to not have needed to use NTI up until this event. And so one very important thing to know is that had we not had that program, we would not have been in a position to handle this emergency the way we did. So very thankful for the program. It's very beneficial. And I certainly believe that as we reflect on what we've all went through when we get through this, I think we'll see some more modifications and changes with regard to NTI so that we can even do even better in the future. With that, I would request that you approve the 2020-2021 NTI program. Again, it's for a 10-day, it's limited by statute to 10 days. This current year, we got a special, Senate Bill 177 was passed by the legislature, which allowed as many days as necessary, approved by the Commissioner of Education. In statute, we are limited to 10 days for next year.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion for approval?
Ruth Hatterick, I move to approve.
Motion made by Ms. Hatterick,
Mary June Brunker,
Gary
second.
Warren.
second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval for technology service providers. Mr. Harris, will you address that for us, please?
Okay. So we have 3 RFPs, and I'm going to read what I have for the first one here.
Okay.
The Harrison County Campus Area Network connects all the buildings on the hilltop, provides data communications, which is critical to the mission of Harrison County Schools. To provide next generation computer services to the children of Harrison County Schools, the request for proposals were advertised and sent to several companies. The following companies provided bids for 10 gigabit services for a campus area network. So you have there the pricing for the various companies that supplied our proposals or bids. And with that first proposal for the campus area network, I'd like to suggest or recommend that the board approve the proposal provided by KEDC for $62,027.70. So that is the first proposal. The second one it's regarding wireless networking in our buildings. We would like to upgrade the infrastructure. We have good wireless and it served us well. You may be aware that we recently had online testing and it went very well with the online testing. So this can only improve that. So the second proposal, with the desire to upgrade the wireless equipment and to provide better wireless coverage and greater density in our buildings, requests were sent out to several vendors and they supplied equipment. And the following companies submitted those proposals: Strategic Communications and KEDC. And I'm asking the board to approve the proposal provided by KEDC for the wireless equipment or wireless infrastructure upgrade for our school buildings. Okay. Moving on to the third one. We have computers and we have technology, we have wireless infrastructure currently in our buildings, but the thought is, why not provide something for the children to have access when they're outside of the building so that they can take their mobile devices, their Chromebooks, their iPhones, their Android phones, and the devices outside. And so some of our schools currently have outdoor classrooms. So the children can go out and experience the internet and use the services without being tethered to a network. And so proposals were sent to several vendors regarding providing this type of service. And we received a proposal from Extreme Networks, and I'm asking the board to approve the Extreme Networks proposal or bid offer. Now, these are all pending, all these proposals are pending E-rate approval. And in addition to these proposals, there are some other monies or dollars that are available that we can use, that can be used to purchase devices to supplement these off-state contract. I also want to say, before I forget, I want to say kudos or big thanks for Tommy Mullins and Leslie McCarty, because it's a lot of work in trying to pull these proposals together, get the bids submitted, advertisements in the paper, and continue with the technology services that we provide. So again, Tommy Mullins and Leslie McCarty, they have been a tremendous help.
Thank you. So am I understanding this correctly? There won't be any cost to the district?
The district, according to E-rate, it will be either 10 to 20% of the amount.
Okay.
The total amount that we have available is approximately $200,000. And so, and we have to apply for proposals and have that money spent or allocated if we choose to use it this year. If we do not this year, it will not be available. One other
Okay.
thing I failed to remember is you all may recall last year around February, I provided you with a diagram that showed the entire network layout of all the buildings as well as the outlying elementary schools. I'm happy to let you know that we have moved forward with that plan. And when I provided that to you at that time, we had none of the schools have been upgraded as far as their connectivity links. Since then, you may recall that Spectrum Enterprises has upgraded the connections for North Side, East Side, and West Side from 1 gigabit to 10 gigabits. And that was helpful with our online testing. And so the campus area network that I had mentioned earlier, it's going to provide an upgrade for the entire campus, taking the campus from 1 gig to 10 gig or even greater. I did have a diagram that had a little picture of Buzz Lightyear, and I'm sure you're familiar with Buzz Lightyear, the character from Toy Story. And what is his famous quote? To infinity and beyond. And we want to be able to take our network to greater places and provide greater capacity for our staff and students.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Ms. Carey,
Does this
Yeah,
apply? Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask Mr. Harris, what is the scope of the outdoor wireless network? I mean, what schools will be have this facility, and will be in elementary schools or just on the hilltop?
The outdoor wireless is for the elementary schools. Now, let me back up and say something. We do have the capability of providing wireless outside the buildings in the parking lots, and that's a matter of just moving access points and pointing them in the right direction so that wireless can provide it today to individuals in the parking lots around the schools. The outdoor wireless infrastructure is something special. The elementary schools have a special area that is dedicated to an outdoor classroom. And some of them actually have tables, they have benches, and they actually have a covering or an area where they can sit under that area. I'm struggling for the word here, but you understand, and they can sit there and they can provide access to the internet or whatever service they need. It's a covered shelter. It's a shelter. And I believe that North Side and East Side have those shelters in
West
place.
Side has one too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Dr. Burchett, were you going to say something?
yeah, I was just going to say that this infrastructure upgrade, as Mr. Harris said, is critical to our future. And as we future plan, Mr. Harris may have shared before, the fiber connectivity that's on the hilltop now is very, very old and antiquated. And even though we are still able to keep it running and connected, it will not provide the need we have for the future. So this proposal you have before you there is for you, the board, to have this done and installed under E-rate dollars at best, or at worst, 20% on the dime or on the dollar, and you will own it. It's there for a lifetime. So it will future plan us and take us well into any future need on this hilltop.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harris. I do have one question. On the first program, the campus area network, I'm curious, was there additional support that was offered by KEDC versus Spectrum?
Well, they basically provided two different types of networks. Spectrum, with KEDC, they're actually going to install the fiber, and it's going to be a fiber network like the one we have currently. The one we have currently, we own. We're not leasing anything from anyone. So the KEDC is providing the fiber network, the infrastructure, the build out for all of our buildings. And when they're completed, we will own the network. The Spectrum network is a lease network for either 3 to 5 years, and it's much more expensive. And after 3 years, we can take another lease out, or we can bid it again, or after the 5-year period, we can do that, but we won't own it. It won't be ours. And you could see, based on just the information I provided, that it's very expensive over those period of years. And so it's best to, in my opinion, have a network like we have now, where we own it and we control it and we can make modifications if necessary.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, if I may. Does this apply to the Area Technology Center?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. Always try to include the Area Technology Center in everything we do. So this does apply to the Area Technology Center. All the previous upgrades as far as the infrastructure and improvements in speed, they've been included, as well as the infrastructure as far as the wireless. I believe the Area Technology Center currently has 4 access points, which are devices used to access the wireless network. They will be getting more, and they will be getting the same current high-speed devices that the other buildings receive.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Ed Taylor, so moved.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor
Gary Dearborn, second.
and second by Mr. Dearborn.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Broker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Terry,
Yes.
and Ms. Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is Mr. Burchett, Dr. Burchett, excuse me, Dr. Burchett's Superintendent's Report on Next Generation Superintendent Effectiveness Standards. He's been sharing a standard per meeting, so he's going to share another standard this month, which I'm sure will be a lot of information because he's been working 24/7 since the crisis has arisen. So again, we appreciate your efforts. So Dr. Burchett.
It's actually not hardly as much as some of the previous ones, but I'm going to save a lot of that for the final completion of the overall portfolio for you.
Okay.
We will try to schedule very soon. So bear with me just one second. I'm going to try to share my screen and get it up and running. Just one second. So you should see the superintendent's report on standard 1, strategic leadership. And the strategic leadership is the superintendent creates conditions that result in strategically reimaging the district's vision, mission, and goals to ensure that each student graduates from high school is globally competitive in post-secondary education or the workforce and is prepared for life in the 21st century. Superintendent creates a community of inquiry that challenges the community to continuously repurpose itself by building on the district's core values and beliefs about the preferred future and then developing a vision. If you recall, I started speaking about this at the first of the summer last year, and we worked with that with our administrative retreat and then opening day. The strategic leadership under this standard creates relationships with the board resulting in a shared vision, models culture and vision, and sets direction, creates processes to ensure and drive identity, facilitates a strategic plan that aligns with the mission and goals, determines financial priorities in concert with the Consolidated District Improvement Plan, facilitates implementation of policies, facilitates high academic goals that are monitored. So what are some evidence and artifacts? We actually discussed some of this when you interviewed me in March of last year. Then we've had board meetings and working sessions ever since then, where we've discussed many of these topics and issues. Again, the administrative retreat in July of 2019 and principals meetings throughout the year. We have a weekly central office leadership team meetings where we work with this, both program directors and leaders in this, instructional leaders in this office who address the issues on strategic leadership. Opening day last year, we had an all-staff address on being the provider, employer, and investment of choice, and what that meant in terms of relationships with our students. We had role group meetings throughout the year with, I met with transportation, food service, secretaries, custodial, maintenance, finance, and student services, friskies, mental wellness, and others. Further evidence and artifacts, the board approved the CDIP in December of this past year. Ms. Hatter presented that to you. the board approved a modified facility plan, which allowed us to go ahead and get work on this office and Southside Elementary. And keep in mind for the public that the majority of that work at Southside is being done at no cost to the local community, as it was state SFCC offers of assistance that we were able to utilize for the majority of that project. You have seen efforts we have been working on future planning for the Hilltop redesign to improve ingress and egress, and that work continues. Ms. Asher presented you with the first budget of the year this year in the previous board meeting. You have also seen where we are working on data dashboards on all programs, be it food service, facilities, transportation, instruction, and all our schools are working on those data dashboards for their programs. And finally, we have had several outcome-based meetings with policy drafters in Frankfort and with our professional organizations. So just share, I always like to share a few pictures. The first ones you've seen, the top three, that was from the administrative retreat. The second row of pictures is the opportunity I had to work on the LSAC committee, which is now led by Commissioner Brown, as Commissioner Lewis has left Kentucky. The middle section was a legislative day in Frankfort with Senator Stephen West, and Mr. Fowler went with me, and also my superintendent mentor, Miss Amy Baker from Bourbon County, went, and she took her high school principal. So that was a very good opportunity to collaborate with Bourbon County and help Senator West recognize areas of concern and how we can work together to better serve the students of our region. Here is a picture with Senator Wise, who's the author of Senate Bill 1, the School Safety and Resiliency Act, along with Jim Flynn, the former superintendent of Simpson County. And I started back before, a few weeks there, back before we had to cancel our regular classes, riding the school buses. And I just wanted to share, these are some of the youngsters that we're working on some future strategic planning with. And I can tell you, we've done a lot of math on some of these long school bus rides home. Last year, I referenced opening day, and the top three pictures are from opening day last year. Of course, the middle row, our community partners. Every morning at Eastside, the fire chief and his crew are there to greet our students and our families at Eastside, helping get them in the door. And at our other schools, I would have to say that we have representatives from the city police and also the sheriff's office fairly regularly as well. The middle section is our teachers working very hard to plan, working with Miss Hatter and Miss Kendall to do a lot of future planning for the district in terms of our writing. And of course, recognizing our mental health and wellness ladies here in the picture on the right. Also in branding, you'll see a picture of our brand new wrestling mat that was on display at the state wrestling meet at the horse park this early spring. And you can see both with Breads and Phillies and the big H in the middle. Actually, I believe that was the match where Tyler Hudgens won that match, if I'm not mistaken. And then at the bottom, this was just taken just the other day as under our current NTI program, where Miss Short and Miss Shoulders were, and this Miss Short's mother and her son were working to get the plants ready to go in the greenhouse for a big crop this year that we anticipate. There's going to be a lot of people in the community coming to buy their product, so everyone can have their own garden at home to help in times of emergencies like this. And that concludes the superintendent's report on strategic leadership. I would say that we have a very dynamic group working on branding. You've probably seen some of that information. Miss Christine Garnett, Mr. Rob McCann stepped up, and I love it when our young educators step up and want to lead. And they're working with Miss Hatter and myself to do surveys on colors, on logos, on branding, on core values. And as we get further along in that process, we will extend that on to working with the entire community on vision and mission. And of course, all that ties into profile of a graduate and where we're going down the road. So, you know, a lot of great things happening in the school. We have wonderful leaders from all levels, leading from the classroom to our leadership teams, our principals and administrators, and from all levels. So certainly blessed to be in that position here in Harrison County.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burchett. I would like to mention, and he's being modest and not sharing all of the activities that he's been doing since the COVID-19 crisis has occurred. Dr. Burchett, as you all know, but I'm saying this for the public's information, is considered an expert. Unfortunately, because we had the first case in Kentucky, and because of his collaboration with other community leaders and how the situation was handled, the commissioner requested him on several occasions. So Dr. Burchett, I just wish that you would speak to that, to share with the community the things that you've been involved with, not just on a local level. We know what you've done locally, but I want other people to know what you've been involved with on a state level, to share your expertise in handling a crisis such as a COVID-19.
Well, let me say this first and foremost, because certainly I could not, we would not be where we are without a great team. And I'll tell you that it came so fast on Saturday, well, starting Friday night, but then Saturday, March the 7th. Just the news media and outreach with Donald Ritchie was instrumental in that. Dana Waits instrumental with that. You know, everybody came together that Saturday for a very quick meeting, and to get ourselves positioned to handle our priorities, which we'd set, which was to continue to provide instruction and provide meals on that first day. As a result of our quick and decisive movements in the community, I was asked to participate on a couple of events. One was I received a call to participate on KET one night on a panel, which actually I think it was Mr. Dearborn said I was in some tall cotton, and I certainly was, because it included Dr. Stephen Stack, who is the state's public health official there for Governor Beshear. You see him on every afternoon. And also Dr. Derek Forrest from the University of Kentucky, who is the leading expert at UK in infectious disease, and another lady from Louisville, from the public health in Louisville, a doctor. And so they asked me to participate with that and speak to the educational needs and what that looked like here in Harrison County. And of course, again, just fortunate to have a great community partnership team with the county judge and the mayor and the HMH and WEDCO and everyone else. Also had the opportunity to participate on a live panel with Commissioner Brown and his team with regard to speaking to all 172 school districts and superintendents across Kentucky as to the things that they would be facing once it was announced that the governor was asking all schools to close, and how we were able to address some of those issues with regards to our staff, our students, and so forth. You know, a lot of this is very scary. It builds a lot of anxiety in the public, in their students, in our parents, and our staff. You know, how we deal with that and how we've had the opportunity to come together and lead has set an example for the entire state. So blessed. I can't imagine any place I would rather be to be dealing with a historic global pandemic like we are today. This is unprecedented times. We've not seen anything like it since really the Spanish flu in the early 1900s. The closest industrial shift would have been World War II to help support the war effort. And of course, remember, people were asked to grow their own gardens during that time. And then also maybe the Great Depression. So, you know, we are in historic times, and we will get through this. Our students will prevail, and we will come out of this on the other side much better off. And certainly we don't want to lose any life. We know that that's going to happen, but as a nation and as a state and as a community, we will be better prepared for events like this in the future. So, those were a couple of examples. There were other articles and news media and newsprints that called and asked for us. You saw in the slide early on, Commissioner Ryan Quarles, Agriculture Commissioner, came on site to observe our feeding program, which we and you as a board supported doing, even at a time when we didn't know we would get one dime back to help support that program. We did that up front because we knew our students needed those meals, and we were going to do that as you told me you would do that as a board, and we were going to do that as a school district and as a community. So fortunately, we led the way, and we helped get that then approved by the federal Department of Agriculture and get that approved nationwide as a waiver for all school districts to continue to provide meal services to their students. So again, just a team effort from top to bottom. Every person, every employee, every role. I can't say it enough. We would not be where we are without the great team that we have in this school district and in this community.
Thank you so much. We have a couple more items on the agenda before we finish up. Next item on the agenda is consideration to grant approval for an employee leave of absence. You have that in your folder. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Ruth
This
Hattery.
is Mary June.
Motion made by Ms. Hatterick and second by Ms. Brunker.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next item on the agenda is information only. It's the superintendent's report of personnel actions, and you all have that in your folder. As we come to a close, any comments? Would love for you to share your comments.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
I would like to send a message. I know that you guys are probably getting questions about this, and I'd like to go ahead and address it. We do not know at this time the length of the extension of cancellation of our regular classes and adopting this NTI model. Right now it's through April the 17th, which means April 20th will be the earliest back. However, the commissioner did direct us to go ahead and develop 6 weeks worth of instruction that would take us up through May 1. May 1 would put us very close to what our normal end of the year would be. I think that only leaves us about 9 days short of where that would be. Not knowing how this thing will end, I do want to say this message to our students, our families, our staff. We're going to do our absolute best to continue to provide instructional services to the best of our ability and meal services to the best of our ability and every other service that we are currently providing. And I will say this, if for some reason that we were unable, due to this global pandemic, to get back in a regular session before the end of the school year, we will take every effort to make your end of year as close to what it would be as normal. Now, I know for seniors, for high school students who are considering some of the events that we would normally have, we may not be able to have those. But I will say this, I know the board, each of you, in talking with you and in talking with Mr. Fowler, we do intend to have something just as soon as we possibly can. And we all need to work together to help support the governor and keep social distancing and keep that curve flattened so that we can get back to normal as soon as possible. And when we do have information with regard to things like graduation or end of the year, other end of the year events, we'll put that information out to the public. We will have every student will have the opportunity to participate in a graduation whenever that graduation ceremony could possibly be held.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I know that's a concern for everybody, and we all totally understand that. We're living in times that none of us have ever experienced before, and it is stressful for everyone involved. I know it's stressful for the students, of all ages. It's an unknown. They're taken out of their routine. It's stressful for parents. They are homeschooling now, and many of them are working from home. There's just so many things to consider in our new norm, and hopefully this won't be a norm for very long, but I just appreciate everybody's willingness to work together. As all of us have discussed, the community has been amazing, and it just makes me proud to be from Harrison County, to have that kind of collaboration. And we will see you all again next month at our board meeting. This as long as we're in this current situation, we'll be having virtual board meetings, and we invite the community to join us on YouTube. I'd like to thank Mr. Harris for providing technical support this evening. I think considering all things, it went very smooth. This is our first time that we've had a virtual meeting, and I appreciate his support. And he did a run through before today, and so everybody was prepared. And I'd like to thank all the board members for embracing the technology, and for Ms. Waits, she's smiling at me over there, getting everything prepared. And of course, Dr. Burchett, we just can't thank you enough for your leadership. I think Harrison County has been a model for the state, and honestly, I believe for the nation, in how we have handled providing educational services, emotional needs, nutritional needs. And I just could not be prouder of the way Harrison County Public Schools has been an advocate, not only for our students, but also for our families. And that's key, because there's so many things going on within families now, loss of jobs, of furlough. I mean, there's just a lot of stress for these families, and as many ways as we can support them, that's what we want to do. And under your leadership, we've been able to do that. So anybody have any comments?
I would just, this is Mary.
Everyone.
I would just say thank you to everybody. A lot of hard work.
Yes, I agree. Mr. Dearborn?
I wanted to say it was good to see everyone.
It was. It is nice to see people, although it be on a screen, it is nice to see everybody. Social distancing is not easy for somebody like me that talks nonstop. So, but I appreciate everybody, and look forward to connecting again. And just so the public knows, Dr. Burchett keeps us informed individually on all of the aspects of what's going on in terms of the COVID-19 crisis. We have been informed all along the way, each of us individually. So we appreciate his communication. It's been extremely helpful and vital, because as we all know, we've never dealt with this before, and it's been quite a challenge. So thank you so much for joining us. And next item on the agenda is a motion for adjournment.
Ed Taylor would move to we adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor for adjournment. Do I hear a second?
Dearborn, second.
Mr. Dearborn, second the motion for adjournment.
Mr. Dearborn,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Brunker,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Carey,
Yes.
and Ms. Hattrick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And everyone have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Carey.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, guys.
Do I have to leave?
Do we have to?